So we're back here at this job. I taped and topped it in part one. We have no idea what we're going to call this video, but part one is I taped and topped this really quickly. I didn't pre-fill it because I really don't pre-fill garages and closets. I just don't think it's necessary. If the cameraman can see this closely, I've got a big crack right here, and then it's right here. This is a garage, and this is plaster. This is the real plaster. And what happens is we expand and contract so much here in the state of Illinois that it's going to crack. I mean, it has no choice but to crack on you here, because if it's 100 degrees with 100% humidity, which we can have here, that's not unusual, and then in the wintertime becomes 20 below with 0% humidity, this garage is going through an enormous fluctuation of cold and hot and humid and dry, and it just can't hold up. So I've heard a lot of people say, well, I put a heater in it. Yeah, but you didn't put an air conditioner in your garage. So in the summertime, it can be very hot in here, very humid in here. In the wintertime, you're going to take the chill off. It's still going to expand and contract like crazy, and it's going to crack. It just can't help it but crack. But so they had some water damage. The roof needed to be repaired. There was a lot of water that came in here. It rotted out the plaster. They chipped it all out. They replaced it with drywall. I'm just in here taping. If you remember in part one, I had some big gaps. Matter of fact, I even think I got mud all over my neck because of it. And because I tried to put the mud in there. And I told you it was going to shrink up. Well, look at it. It shrunk up. It didn't shrink up here too bad, but that's okay. It's flush. Once I dust this down, it'll be flush. So now I just got to dust it off, dust it down a little bit. I put it on heavy, and if you remember right, I took a little bit of popping with some all-purpose, and I mixed them together, and I just taped and topped it. So, but all I'm looking to do is dust this down. I don't normally have it this heavy and this rough when I'm taping, but again, it's a garage. I whipped it out very, very quickly, just tape and top, very, very quickly, and now I'm about to skim it. So I also told you I didn't do the angles like I normally do. Normally, I would run one side of all these angles, and then I would come back and run the other side. But again, it's a garage. All I'm going to do is strip these angles. That's all I'm going to do. I'll just strip the edges of the angle. This is all textured with a sand. This is going to be smooth. It's not going to be textured. So here I am. I'm getting ready to skim this. I'm not using stilts. I'm just going to use some buckets here. And the first thing I like to do when I'm doing this by hand is I like to take care of the angles. The angles usually take a little bit, ooh, that scared me, take a little bit more work, so I just like to do the angles. I'm going to clean this up a little bit, and I'm just going to strip this bottom angle just like that. Now if you notice, I got some stuff here at the top, but I can just pull this in, pull that out. That looks good. I'm hoping this comes out on film. It's a little dark in here. The walls are a little gray. I'm hoping this comes out. But again, I'm not doing this like I would on the inside of a house, because this is strictly a garage. A lot of times I try to recommend people up here, don't finish the garage. It's just going to crack anyway. Just go ahead and tape it and top, or tape it. Just fire tape it, because that's all that's required, is fire taping. And if you just fire tape it, it'll pass inspection, as long as you use a 5/8 fire code. This is type X, fire code X, and as long as you use a 5/8 fire code, you pass inspection and you're done. Wow, this is offset. This drywall is not as thick as the plaster. So there's a difference between the plane of this and the plane of this. So We'll take that out a little bit better. I'm going to go on the other side of this. And here. Oh, caught it. It didn't go on the ground. As I'm doing this and as my knife hits this, I get the sand in my face. I don't like sand in my face. Unless I'm on the beach, then I love sand in my face. You know what life is, right? Life's a beach. Life's a beach. All right. So let me finish this angle. Okay, doesn't that look easy? Wasn't that simple? And then I'll strip. That turned out really nice. I got a little bit of an edge here. Let's pull that down. That's nice. I got some tape here too that's kind of floating. So let's see if we can't get that mudded down a little bit. Normally I cut that out. You know what? I'm gonna tear that little piece of tape out of there. It's a little long. It's not on anything. Got it. See, that's the culprit, that little thing right there. Let's get that out of there. And I'm going to do that, but I'm coating the top side complete. That's what I'm doing, just stripping the bottom angle. There's kind of a reason I do this, coat the top side complete, is because at the height that this is at, I mean this is like a 9-foot ceiling, and at the height that this is at, you can still get underneath and look to see if there's a hollow spot. If the angle's hollow, if I just strip the top angle. But you're not gonna, unless you're this tall, taller than I am, you can't see if there's a hollow spot on that angle. You don't have the right angle to look at the angle. Did I say angle enough? Do I need to say angle a couple of more times? Not sure. So, and let's do this. In a minute we're going to mud up like I saw somebody on the internet, on their YouTube channel. We'll mud things up like I saw them do it. And then you can tell me which is faster. Alright. That looks good. I have some ridging. Right there. That's good. Let's coat this down. Oh, there's a big booger. Somebody picked that booger. Just picked that booger right off the wall. All right. We'll clean this up a little bit. And we'll strip this angle. Up enough. I want to fill this in just a little bit more. Right. That looks pretty good for a crappy job in a garage. I hope the owners don't see this video. A crappy job in their garage. I won't tell them that I have a YouTube channel. so they don't see me doing a crappy job in their garage. And that looks good. Actually, that looks very good. Just want to hit a couple of these top seams. Then I can, oh wait, I still have to do that top seam. Let's see, then I can jump down. This one, the video is not going to be as long as my other one, because the other one I taped and topped it. And now I skimmed it. And if you notice, I don't use a 12. I'm using my 10-inch knife. I use my 10-inch knife to coat this, to coat these seams, and I'm also using it to skim these seams. I used to, don't get me wrong, for years I used the 12-inch knife, but once +3 was invented, and it didn't shrink up as much, and you didn't have to 3-coat anymore, I kind of got away from it. I kind of learned I don't really need it. And it's big, it's a big knife. And I don't really need it. It's not necessary. I can coat this, then I can sit there and make it a little bit lighter, and I can wipe that out, and then turn around and wipe this out. And that's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. That'll sand out. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. With stuff like this, it's a little bit harder. I wish I had my 8 in my hand, because I would have done this in my 8 with my 8. But since I don't, I'll do this with my 10 too. No, just my 10, not my 10 2. It's not a 10 2, it's just a 10. And then I can mud this in, mud this in. This door does not have trim. It's got a plaster bead, a plaster trim piece that was on here that the plaster is just plastered up to. I don't know how old this house is. I really don't. But I gotta guess this house is probably 1920, 1930, somewhere around there. I don't think it's newer than that. But I could be wrong. But I'm not. Wasn't that Monk? I might be wrong, but I'm not. Okay. Couple of screws. One. And take this one. 2. Now I just have the rest of this seam to hit. And this is actually, well, it's solid though. I'm going to say that actually looks like it's sticking down a little bit, but I don't think that's going to matter once I put this up. And again, too, this plane here is not the same as this plane. And these chatter marks, they will dust right out. If I came in here and sanded it, I could sand those chatter marks right out. But this right now is really done. If we textured it, this is done. This is all done. But I'm not going to texture this either. If the painter wanted to texture it, he can. But I do believe they're just going to paint this and call it good enough. That's what they're going to do. It's going to look good enough once it's painted. So how do you like bucket walking? Anybody out there, do they walk on buckets? You know, I used to be called the bucket walker years ago. I learned it was easier to jump up on a bucket sometimes than it was to go get my stilts and just do that, especially if it's a small thing. But I'm just wondering, does anybody else do that? I learned this in Arizona, guys. You know, see that sand comes down my face, through my eye. I got my bill on, which stops some of it. But in Arizona, I was 21 years old. Moved to Arizona, I think in 1980. 1980, okay, I was 20 years old. And then I was there until, for about 3 years. And understand, when I moved to Phoenix, Arizona, I was a journeyman up here. I started taping when I was 16, and by the time I was 20, I had served my 4-year apprenticeship, and I was a journeyman taper up here in Illinois. I moved to Arizona, and those guys were fast, extremely fast. I could put on a case of tape, a case of 500-foot rolls of tape by myself. I could string out 10 rolls of 500-foot rolls. And that was a long day. And I wouldn't be by myself. I'd have a helper. I'd have a guy wiping tape behind me. I went to Arizona, and that bazooka runner is doing 3 cases. He's doing 30 rolls. It was absolutely incredible, people. Absolutely incredible. I've never seen anything like it. They move like lightning down there. So I go to Arizona and they ask me, what do you do? I go, I'm a taper. Well, can you tape? Can you run a bazooka? Yeah. Can you run a 10 box? Yeah. Can you spot screws? Yeah. Can you run a 12? Yeah. And then they're looking at me like, we'll see, we'll see. Because down there, back then, everybody specialized. The bazooka runner couldn't run a 10 box. He couldn't run corner bead. He couldn't spot screws, but he could run a bazooka. He could run a bazooka like there was no tomorrow. So they tried me on all these different things. And I could do them all. It's just I did them at a snail's pace compared to what they did it at. So finally they asked me, so what do you want to do? Because you're not going to be doing it all, what do you want to do? So I'm thinking, what's the easiest thing to do? Top, up top, you know. And so that's what I did. When I got down there, I ran a 10 box, I ran corner bead, I spotted screws, and I learned how to top quickly. But I went from I went from a journeyman drywall finisher to a third stage apprentice. And now I'm sure I'm gonna get a bunch of comments. Hey, yeah, I'm watching. You probably should have stayed a third stage apprentice. But it was. I'm thinking, wow. I went from a pay from here to a pay down here, and really had to learn everything all over again. By the time I came back up into northern Illinois here, I was working there for 3 years. I couldn't work with anybody. Everybody here worked like I did 3 years prior, and they were just way too slow. And we were piece workers. We got so much per foot, and that was it. And they didn't want to take 20 or 30% of my pay, you know what I mean, of what the house was going to pay, because I'm doing 70 to 80% of the work, and they're only doing, 20 to 30% of the work. And so I basically had to work alone, and I did. I just worked alone. I just worked by myself. 1 year, I went through 17 apprentices, 17 helpers, because nobody wanted to work that hard. But now, I'm old. I don't want to work that hard either. I'm done. I got a couple more years of doing this, and then I'm done. So there we have it. It's all skim. It's ready to sand if we need it. I've got a bad edge up here. I think I'm gonna flip that a little bit better right there. I really don't need to, but I'm just going to because I can. And now it's ready to sand or not sand. That's really, truthfully, I'm probably just going to leave it like this. I'm not even going to sand it. I'm just going to bill them for what I did. You guys have a great day. I hope that was educational. If not, look up another video. It might be. You have a great day. Hey, if you really like this video, subscribe. And if you really, really like this video, share it with somebody else. You have a great day.